As you may know from other videos on this channel, the main mission of this channel is to create resources for Korean learners to become more authentic. The kind of resources that can help you fill in all that like empty bookshelf space in the Korean language section of the library in your brain, if that makes any sense. I kind of picture it that way because I feel like native speakers fill that section with, years and years of experience and memes and cultural, little things. But in this case, it's all of the stuff that makes a Korean speaker. Through learning another language to a high level while living in the culture that uses it, I've come to understand that native speakers know a lot of things about their language that they don't know that they know. And in this channel, I want to try to dig into all of those things. So one of the types of content that I want to try to explore going forward is something that I'm very interested in, which are modern trends in the usage of Korean. Sometimes that'll be slang, sometimes that'll be grammar or vocabulary, sometimes it'll just be my observations on things that I'm noticing Korean speakers doing around me and my speculations on the psychology of it all. 안녕하세요. 한국어 배치의 이한입니다. So today's topic is something kind of funny on the surface, but I have some thoughts about it that I think could be helpful to you when it comes to building a better intuition for how Korean speakers use Korean so you can understand more of what they're saying. More on that later. Let's take a look at a quick passage. 아티스틱한 감성을 바탕으로 꾸띠르적인 디테일을 넣어 페미닌함을 세련되고 아트적인 느낌으로 표현함. 슬릭하면서도 핏한 익스테리어에 반전을 주는 스페셜 인테리어 레드 스페셜 패키지 인테리어. 컨피던스하게 클리어한 뷰를 겟하는 리얼 쿨가이의 프로젝션 안개 등. Man, it is hard to read English in Korean. For the last 10-ish years or so, there's been a trend of big companies, usually fashion or beauty industry related companies, putting out marketing pieces with language like this. Tons of English-ish words thrown into Korean sentences, sometimes other languages too, French, Italian, etc. This sort of writing, this kind of unintelligible writing full of foreign words, gets called vogue-writing in Korean. Let's break down that name. So vogue is the Korean spelling, the Korean version of the word Vogue, the American fashion magazine you've probably heard of before. 체 is a hanja. It's the one that represents the body. Its name is 몸체. So vogue-체 is a type of 문체. 문 being writing and 체 being body. So writing body translates to writing style. So this word 문체 actually covers a whole bunch of different things. For example, in English, when we talk about the Korean language and say the yo form, in Korean, that's called 해요체. Unfortunately, even though vogue-체 sounds great in Korean, a clear translation, Vogue-like writing style, isn't quite as catchy in English, in my opinion. In terms of feeling, I think it would be best to translate vogue-체 as like Voguelish, maybe, or Voguese, some kind of word like that is probably how we would call this sort of thing in English. A lot of strange or unique or new writing styles or speaking styles get named this way, something 체. I'll share more of them with you in future videos. Anyway, Koreans' reaction to this kind of language is pretty mixed. If you read about this style of writing in the news, you'll get a lot of street interviews with people who are confused or maybe a little irritated by it. They'll say things like, I can't read what this says, or why would they do something nobody could read? Can't they just put it in Korean? But when advertisers get asked why they do this, their response is, well, we think that using Western or foreign words, I don't know why advertisers talk like that. We think that Western or foreign words add a sense of luxury or high quality, a sort of premium veneer to the things we're doing, which is kind of contradictory when you look at how people on the street feel about this. I mean, they're marketing to those people. Wouldn't they want to do something that those people would actually like? When institutions with fancy scientists and statisticians and stuff do broader surveys, they find that about half of people don't care, and about half of people say, I would prefer them to use Korean. In general, I think this is a much hotter issue with the older generations in Korea who have not been exposed to as much English through media and education as younger people. But given the fact that even though people study English their entire lives, the general English level is pretty low in Korea, I think this affects the entire population, not just that small group of, elders. Anyway, let's put this in an English context so you can feel it a little bit more viscerally. I think we definitely have this same sort of idea in English, even though we don't necessarily have a word for it. And for us, I think it's a combination of pronunciation and vocabulary instead of just vocabulary choices.
Everyone must try this cacio e pepe pasta sauce from Trader Joe's.
I remember when I was younger, there were these Dunkin' Donuts ads where they were making fun of Starbucks for all the weird words they use, and they called it like Fritalian or something like that, making fun of the like grande venti frappa mochaccino whatever kind of stuff.
My mouth can't form these words.
Delicious lattes from Dunkin' Donuts. You order them in English, not for Italian.
Another example here is from my home country, the US. We just had an election here at the time of making this video. And one of the more contentious Senate races had an interesting gaffe that I think is directly related to what we're talking about today. One of the candidates for Senate in Pennsylvania, Dr. Mehmet Oz, was talking about buying some groceries in a grocery store, and he said that his wife was making crudité.
Thought I'd do some grocery shopping. I'm at Wegner's, and my wife wants some vegetables for crudité, right? So
now, I've never heard this word before. I have no idea what a crudité is, and a lot of people felt the exact same way. It ended up on the news, people were making fun of him. He ended up losing the election, probably not because of that, but I'm sure that didn't help. Anyway, aside from all the funniness and the social aspects of the whole thing, the public opinion on it, I think something really interesting is happening grammatically in Korean when it comes to English. And I think it's worth looking at as a learner because it helps you dig into the psychology of a Korean speaker. So, going forward in the video, this is going to be a mixture of facts about the Korean language and my opinions, my observations about the language as someone who has learned it as an adult. I couldn't find any scholarly articles that were specifically talking about the things I noticed or that I want to talk about in this video. So if you're watching this video and you have a BA in linguistics and you want to leave a comment that's like, actually, you're Altaic family superior warfing yourself into a linguistic relativity argument here, bro. Dude, chill, all right? It's just a YouTube video. Relax. So the first observation, idea, whatever you want to call it, that I want to put forward in this video is that Korean speakers seem to use English loan words or English vocabulary in the exact same way that they would use hanja. Let's take a look at one of those passages from earlier. The English words thrown into this sentence are surrounded by Korean grammatical dressing. You can almost directly replace all of these English words with hanja like this. Interesting, right? So this leads me to the second observation, idea sort of thing that I want to share with you in this video. Korean speakers tend to prefer to express themselves using dense, agreed upon, well-known concepts as opposed to a more fluid, context-rich sentence that an English speaker might use to express an idea. I haven't quite found the right words to express this idea exactly, so that might not be totally what I want to say. I'll flesh out the idea a little bit more here for you, but this has just kind of come to me after, spending years and years with Korean speakers. So here's an example. If you spend any time learning Korean, in Korean, from Korean people, as an English speaker or as a Western language native speaker, you probably have this sort of experience. You ask a Korean speaker what a certain word means. Most likely that word is going to be a hanjao because most of the vocabulary words you learn are hanjao. And you say something like, 상승하다. 이게 무슨 말이에요? And they'll respond with, 증가. If you don't know what 증가 is, you're not going to know what 상승 is. They haven't explained what either of these words mean. They just used related, well-known, agreed-upon concepts that have been codified in hanja. I think that there's some kind of psychological effect here at play where Korean, which is this language that is used a ton of, globally agreed upon hanja concepts along with its neighbors for thousands of years, is now interacting with this weird foreign language, English, that doesn't really work that way. Korean speakers have long studied language and literature in terms of these agreed upon concepts, these hanja. It's like a memorizable web of words that just work. You'll notice, too, if you ever come here, that they study English the exact same way. Rigid vocabulary lists that more closely relate to Korean they're familiar with than any kind of natural English, anything that an English speaker would actually choose or say. I think in Korea that the general sentiment towards learning language is that the most important thing is vocabulary. And I mean when they learn Korean or Chinese or Japanese and English as well. So if you ever run into a native Korean speaker that's fumbling around with English, maybe they're on vacation, maybe they've met a foreigner in Korea or something like that, they'll tend to just throw out words that they know instead of try to get through any kind of sentence. And I think that that behavior, this kind of just speaking in concepts as opposed to creating a sentence using, all the different words that we use in English, relates to the two ideas that I've already shared in this video. So to share the third and final idea that I have for this video, I want to make a quick callback to the video I made about how to improve your Korean immediately by using 네, and talking about how Korean speakers deal with being asked to repeat something that they've said. I think this final idea kind of ties everything up and supports the other two ideas as well. So the observation here is that Korean speakers do this same thing with Korean words as well, where when they're asked to repeat something, they will drop all the grammatical dressing and just share the main concept, the main idea, the main noun, really, from the sentence. This is one of the habits of Korean speakers that I think makes learning Korean really hard for outsiders, because it really shows that Korean speakers don't think about, don't understand, don't pay attention to the parts of the language that are difficult for foreigners, for non-native speakers. It's not the vocabulary that's difficult, it's all the grammar that's difficult. So to dig into this just a little bit, an example of Korean speakers doing something like this is where they use kind of random English words for no particular reason after saying a Korean sentence. If you look like me, you don't have to look like me. If you don't look like a Korean person and you're learning Korean, you're probably going to run into this sort of situation a lot. You'll hear a native Korean speaker say something to you like 여기 잠깐 대기해 주세요, waiting. Or they'll say something like 여기 잠깐 기다려 주세요, just a moment. What that says to me is that in their mind, they assume that we understood the 여기 잠깐 blah 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 주세요. And the part that we didn't understand, because we're not a Korean speaker, is the main idea, the 대기 or the 기다려 or whatever it is. So they throw in what they feel is a related concept at the end of the sentence, waiting or just a moment or, something like that. They tack it on the end because it's the same sort of thing as 상승. What does 상승 mean? 증가. Does that kind of come together? You see why I'm sharing these different ideas? I know it sounds like I'm rambling. I'm trying to express what I've observed with Korean, but I can't get it 100%. So I just wanted to share this idea with the community. So let's summarize and bring everything back to vogue-writing. I think that vogue-writing isn't necessarily so much flexing as it is an infusion of new hanja-like concepts to Korean. It's not a code switching behavior because the audience isn't English speakers most of the time. It's people utilizing alternatives to hanja that they may feel have a slightly different nuance or just fit the vibes of their sentence better. Regardless, I think that there's something more interesting happening here than just the parts of it that Korean speakers like to make fun of or complain about. I hope this little dive into Korean linguistic culture was interesting and helpful for you. Leave me a comment letting me know what you think about this type of content. The engagement helps the channel. It helps give me ideas about what kind of content to make. And if you share any linguistic trends or vocabulary trends or whatever that you're interested in, I'd be happy to talk about them on the channel as well. I want to know what you're curious about. Anyway, that's all for today. I will see you in the next one. Bye. Hey, so if you are as interested in the roles that hanja play in modern Korean as I am, you should definitely keep your eye on my hanja pechi project that is currently in development. You can get a free ebook as well as get all of the latest updates as soon as they come out if you join my mailing list by heading over to Korean Patch here. I keep doing it over here. KoreanPatch.co and just signing up for the mailing list. It's free, just takes a couple of clicks and a little bit of typing, and you get all that free ebook and update goodness. Thanks again for all your support.